Hi everyone, I'm the Plant Propagator and welcome to my channel. If you're interested in learning a little bit more about what I do, please subscribe to my channel. Today, this is a follow-up from a previous video that I posted on a Phalaenopsis that I have growing on the date palm in the front of my house. Well, the Phalaenopsis is now not quite in full bloom, but it's getting close. And the interesting thing is this is a huge plant, and it has 3 bloom spikes, and each of the bloom spikes is just loaded with flowers. The interesting thing is this thing is big enough. This date palm is about 10-15 feet away from the street here, and what's happening is it's drawing the walkers in the neighborhood. I've had a number of people stop and ask me what the plants are on my date palms, and this one is really drawing not quite a crowd, but pretty close. So at latest count, and again, it's not quite in full bloom, I've got 25 blooms, 26, 27, about that, on 3 different bloom spikes on this plant. And it's doing just really, really well. I think what we have is maybe another, well, you can see here, so this is one of the bloom spikes, and the tallest one, and the plant is pretty close to on the ground here, and this was taller than me, but because of the blooms, it has kind of fallen down a little bit. So this is the tallest bloom spike. There's 2 more, again, multi-branched. I don't want to move it too much, but there's 2 branches on this one. On one that I'm looking down here, there are like 5 branches. On another one, there are 4 branches. So there's a lot of flowers coming out on here. Again, about 25 flowers. I think when this peaks, I think some of the flowers are going to fade and fall off, but there's probably going to be, I would guess, between 75 and 100 flowers on this one plant. And the flowers themselves, is, if you can see, they're pretty big. It's a nice plant. I don't know the history on it, but it's just a really nice plant. No fragrance, unfortunately, which is, as I've said, is a problem that I have with Phalaenopsis. But it's still a nice plant, and it's drawing a lot of people from the neighborhood, or from the walkers in the neighborhood, to take a look at it. This plant is right next to some of my dendrobiums. All of my Phalaenopsis, or most of my Phalaenopsis plants, are blooming, so they're putting on quite a show. And this plant is just pretty magnificent. Now, why is this plant so great? Well, it's because, as I showed you in an earlier video, it has just an incredible root system that's associated with it. The roots on this plant must cover, must go halfway around this tree, and the base of this tree is pretty wide. And this plant is growing at or beyond its potential. It's really, really growing well. The flowers on this plant normally are not this big. I've had this obviously for quite a few years. And the flowers are big, the bloom spikes are big, everything on this plant is big. Is that the genetics of this plant or the environment of this plant? And well, there's part of the genetics that allow it to get to this point, but the other thing is that it is the environment. So this plant, as I said, is doing really well and has a large number of roots. All right, as a way to see this, I have this plant here that actually is it's the same it's the same orchid, and you can see the flowers they're the same, but they're different sizes. So this is the first flower on a plant that's in a pot. This plant is growing just in lava stone, so it may not be getting the same level of moisture. It's doing well, and it's a nice Phal. As you can tell, it's just starting to bloom, but it's smaller, considerably smaller than this one. I'm not sure which one was the keiki, whether this is the original plant or that is the original plant. My feeling is this is the original plant, and then that was a keiki or a division from this plant, because this ended up on the tree. And usually what I do is I take my extra plants, my divisions, and mount them on my date palm. So I would just guess that this plant right here was the original. And it's doing it, like I said, also it's doing well, nice flowers, but not as much as this one. So that's really all I have for you today. I told you I would show you the progress of this plant as it was blooming, and it really is making it's just an incredible plant, and it's about halfway to, I think, to full bloom. So I hope you enjoyed this short video. If you're interested in learning a little bit more about what I do, please click on subscribe and subscribe to my channel. And happy propagating.